All right, we're happy to welcome in Mayor Steve Adler once again to talk about city issues with us this morning. Of course, let's get to the rock throwing incidents first, Mayor, because this is something that so many people in our community around the city are concerned about. We ran a soundbite earlier this week from a man who said he's avoiding driving on the lower deck of I-35. What do you want to say to the residents of Austin about it?
Well, I think that it's frustrating for all of us. It's really frustrating for me. I think we're all concerned about it. We have our police chief focused on this issue. It's a hard one to solve, but it's incredibly frustrating, and everybody's concerned about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. For anyone that says, how have they not caught this suspect yet? Why can't they just put cameras up or patrol these areas where we're seeing these incidents happen? You know, what's the response to that?
I think there's a lot of things that are happening. We just haven't caught it. Sometimes it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Yeah. But it's a high priority. It is top of mind, and everybody's really frustrated.
Yeah, hopefully just a matter of time and not too much more time. Somebody out there knows something. So. And
the reward, I think, is increasing.
Right.
And somebody's got to know something.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and kind of on the topic of traffic, of course, such an issue that continues to plague our city. And just recently, the idea of a light rail was brought up once again. Of course, voters turned down a light rail 2 years ago. This is kind of a new proposal that wouldn't cost quite as much money, would kind of run a different course around the city. What do you think about that idea and the possibility of it being on the ballot in November?
I think that we have top of mind for so many people is congestion on our roads and traffic, and we have to actually do something.
Right.
The city has studied lots of options. The one that keeps coming up now that appears that there's consensus over is to deal with the roads that people are on most of the time. These corridors, Riverside Drive, Airport, Burnett Road, MLK, Riverside, Guadalupe.
Okay, so some of those main roads that intersect I-35 and the highways.
And I think that's where the consensus is. In 20 or 30 years, it's hard for me to imagine Austin without rail. I'm a rail proponent, but I don't think the consensus exists right now for us to be able to make that the consensus in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And that's what we have to do for a November election.
It would have to be decided very soon in order for it to be on the ballot.
It would. I think that there is a different path to get us to rail. So my sense is that what happens in November is going to be focusing on these main corridors. Perhaps something on 360, Anderson Mills, something down at the Y maybe.
Yeah.
But primarily on these corridors. Because
we know that so many drivers turn to those corridors to avoid I-35 or MOPAC.
Right.
You know, you're talking about this idea of smart corridors. So what would be some of the changes that we could make to those roads to ease congestion?
Well, there are a lot of things that go into making the road a lot smarter. We're talking about putting in right and left-hand turns, dedicated lanes for cars so that you're not stuck behind a car that's turning, putting medians in the middle of the block so people aren't turning mid-block, having bus pullouts so that you're not stuck between a bus, moving the bikes off so you're not stuck behind bikes. It's doing new things with the traffic lights and making them smarter. The studies show, and these reports, and Austin has spent millions of dollars on these plans, and then they go on the shelf in classic Austin fashion. We need to take them off the shelf and go big. But what we're seeing is that if we do nothing, then traffic on these roads, the delays at the intersections will go up from where they are, go up by 70%. But if we do this kind of work, we can actually reduce the delays by 25 to 50%. We need to do this kind of work.
Yeah, something must be done. Would it require a bond in order to pay for those changes to those roads?
It would require a bond. The kind of bond we're talking about for a $700 million package that would do all of that is less than $5 a month. It's less than $16 a day. And I think that people would be willing to make that kind of infrastructure investment if it actually would do something about traffic and congestion in this city.
Okay. Real quick before we wrap, do we have an update on the Smart Cities grant?
Well, this week we're all headed to D.C. We have our oral exam in front of the Secretary of Transportation. It's going to be live streamed, my portion of it, live streamed from Washington, D.C. I think it's 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock Central Time on Thursday.
Oh, we will have to watch out for that.
And then we wait.
And then we'll find out at some point after that?
We're hoping by the end of the month.
Okay, great. Mayor, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for inviting me.
We'll be right back.